Robert Redford's emotional confession about the love of his life at 88, Hollywood stardom, Academy Awards, the founding of Sundance, and adoring fans worldwide. Robert Redford has experienced all the trappings of success during his illustrious career spanning over 6 decades. But behind the glamorous facade and beneath the rugged exterior of the Sundance Kid lies a man who has experienced profound heartbreak, passionate love, and painful loss. Today, at 88 years old, Redford is finally opening up about the woman who truly captured his heart, a confession that has shocked Hollywood insiders and fans alike. The journey to this revelation has been decades in the making, spanning 2 marriages, 4 children, and a career that has seen breathtaking heights and devastating personal tragedies. For years, Redford has kept his most intimate feelings close to his chest, maintaining the stoic demeanor that made him famous in films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting. But now, in the twilight of his remarkable life, the legendary actor and director is finally speaking his truth, and what he's revealing will surprise you. The woman he calls the love of my life isn't who most people expected. The timing of this confession, as he looks back on his journey at 88, has sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Stay with us until the end, because the real reason Redford waited until now to make this admission will break your heart. This isn't just another celebrity romance story. It's a tale of what might have been, of regrets, and of a love that still haunts one of Hollywood's most iconic leading men. Before we dive into this emotional journey, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below letting me know which state or country you're tuning in from, and share your favorite Robert Redford film. I'm giving away 3 limited edition Sundance Film Collection box sets to random commenters on this video. Just leave a thoughtful comment about which of Redford's roles resonated with you most, and you'll be entered to win. Now let's explore the complicated love life of Hollywood's most enduring heartthrob. You've seen him as the charismatic outlaw in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the principled journalist in All the President's Men, and the visionary baseball fan in The Natural. For over 6 decades, Robert Redford has been a fixture on our screens, representing an ideal of American masculinity, intelligent, principled, and resilient. But the real Robert Redford has navigated a much more complicated path when it comes to matters of the heart. From his young marriage to Lola von Wagenen, who stood by him during his struggling actor days, to his later-in-life partnership with Sibylla Sagars, Redford's romantic history reveals a man constantly torn between his dedication to his career and his desire for lasting love. Behind every relationship, every marriage, and every heartbreak lies a deeper story about a man trying to reconcile his extraordinary public life with his very human need for genuine connection. As we peel back the layers of Redford's romantic past, a pattern emerges, one that explains why, at 88, he's finally ready to acknowledge who truly held his heart all along. Let's begin our journey through the loves, losses, and lingering regrets of Robert Redford. To understand the significance of Redford's recent confession, we need to go back to where it all began. Long before the fame, the fortune, and the Hollywood accolades, there was a young college dropout with dreams of becoming an artist. It was 1957 in Los Angeles when 20-year-old Robert Redford first laid eyes on 17-year-old Lola von Wagenen, a Mormon girl from Utah who would become his first wife and the mother of his children. In those early days, Redford was far from the Hollywood icon we know today. Fresh from a trip to Europe where he had studied art in Paris, he was a struggling young man with artistic ambitions but no clear path forward. Lola, young as she was, saw something in him that many others missed at the time, a determination and creativity that would eventually change the landscape of American cinema. Their connection was immediate and profound. Within a year of meeting, they eloped to Las Vegas, followed by a formal Mormon ceremony at Lola's grandmother's home in Utah. This wasn't just another young romance. For Redford, still finding his footing in life, Lola represented something genuine and grounding in a world he was desperate to break into, a world known for its superficiality and fleeting connections. As Redford began pursuing acting more seriously, studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, Lola supported his dreams. In 1959, they welcomed their first son, Scott Anthony. But tragedy struck almost immediately when the infant died of sudden infant death syndrome just 2 months later. Can you imagine the pain? A young couple, barely into their 20s, facing such a devastating loss? This kind of heartbreak would have torn most couples apart, but somehow Redford and Van Wagenen persevered. They went on to have 3 more children together, Shauna in 1960, James, known as Jamie, in 1962, and Amy in 1970. For 27 years, they built a life together, weathering the storms of Redford's rising fame and the challenges it brought to their family life. As Redford's star began to rise in the late 1960s with hits like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the foundation of their relationship started to crack under the pressure of fame. What followed was a painful unraveling of what had once seemed like the perfect Hollywood marriage. After nearly 3 decades together, Redford and Van Wagenen divorced in 1985, when he was at the height of his fame and creative power. But the financial cost of the divorce paled in comparison to the emotional toll. It was mutual, and it was right to move on, Redford told The Telegraph in 2001, confirming his growing success in Hollywood had put a strain on the marriage over the years. "We still have great love, great affection, great friendship." Despite these diplomatic words, those close to the actor revealed that the end of this marriage created a wound that never fully healed, one that would shape his approach to love and relationships for decades to come. The wilderness years. Following his divorce from Van Wagenen, Redford entered what many consider his wilderness years. Not professionally, as his career continued to flourish both in front of and behind the camera, but personally. The late 1980s and early 1990s saw him focus intensely on his work, particularly the Sundance Institute and Film Festival, which he had founded in 1981, and which was growing into a cultural force. During this period, Redford seemed reluctant to commit to another serious relationship, perhaps scarred by the end of his long marriage. Friends noted that despite his status as one of Hollywood's most eligible bachelors, Redford kept his romantic life intensely private, rarely bringing dates to public events and never discussing his personal life in interviews. "I never wanted to be one of those divorced show business casualties. So predictable," he once remarked. "I wanted to prove that a marriage could last and prove the business wrong, but I couldn't." This sense of failure, despite the amicable nature of his divorce, weighed heavily on Redford throughout this period. It wasn't just the end of his marriage that cast a shadow over these years. In October 2020, Redford would face another devastating loss when his son James died of liver cancer at age 58. Though this tragedy came much later, it connected back to the first profound loss he and Lola had experienced together, the death of their infant son, Scott. These bookend tragedies, the loss of his first and third children, created a poignant symmetry in Redford's life, one that friends say has made him reflect deeply on his past as he enters his later years. Throughout the wilderness years, those closest to Redford noted that he often spoke of his first marriage with a mixture of regret and nostalgia. Despite the painful ending, there was something about those early years with Lola, the simplicity, the authenticity, the shared struggle, that he couldn't seem to recapture in his subsequent relationships. The second chapter. Just when it seemed Redford might never find a deep connection again, he met Sibylle Sagers, a German-born multimedia environmental artist 20 years his junior. They met in 1996 at his beloved Sundance Mountain Resort in Utah, where she had come to ski with friends. Intriguingly, Sagers didn't know much about the famous actor when they first met. She had come to ski and didn't know much about the actor, according to sources. In a panel for the Young Arts Salon in 2014, Sagers revealed that Redford had invited her and a group of friends to dinner, and she thought, "Oh my God, I don't know any of his films." She rented several of his movies before their meeting, but only watched about 15 minutes of each one, just enough to fake familiarity if needed. Rather than being put off by this, Redford was charmed by her lack of knowledge about his celebrity status. "It was a wonderful beginning of a relationship, because it began as two human beings meeting each other and finding a connection as two human beings," he reportedly said of their first encounter. What started as a chance meeting blossomed into a deep connection. Unlike his whirlwind romance and early marriage to Lola, this relationship developed slowly, organically. Sagers moved in with Redford in 1996, and they shared his home in Sundance, Utah, for over a decade before formalizing their union. It wasn't just a physical attraction that drew them together, it was their shared values and passions. Both are committed environmentalists, with Sagers creating art that speaks to environmental consciousness and Redford long being an advocate for conservation causes. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and genuine affection. After 13 years together, Redford and Sagers married in July 2009 in Hamburg, Germany. It was a private ceremony, reflective of Redford's desire to keep his personal life out of the spotlight. No paparazzi, no elaborate celebrity affair, just two people in love, making a commitment to each other. In the years that followed, Redford spoke warmly of his relationship with Sagers in the few interviews where he touched on his personal life. "She's a very special person," he told AARP, the magazine, in 2011. "She's younger than I am, and European, which I like, so that's a whole new life." This sentiment, that Sagers represented a whole new life for him, seemed significant. After the pain of his divorce and the challenging years that followed, Redford had found someone who brought fresh perspective and energy into his world. Their relationship has endured for over 25 years now, a testament to their compatibility and mutual respect. The recent reflection. Now at 88 years old, Robert Redford has lived a life most can only dream of. The fame, the accolades, the respect of his peers, the legacy of Sundance. But recently, as he stepped back from public life and acting, his last major role was in 2018's The Old Man and the Gun, he's had time to reflect on his life's journey in a way that wasn't possible during the whirlwind of his career. This period of reflection has coincided with some significant milestones in Redford's personal life. In 2020, he experienced the devastating loss of his son James to liver cancer. Then, in early 2025, he made a surprise return to acting with a brief cameo in the AMC series Dark Winds, which he executive produces alongside Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin. These moments, one of profound loss, one of unexpected return to his craft, have bookended a period of deep introspection for Redford, and it's during this time that he's reportedly made the emotional confession that has shocked many. Despite his 25-year relationship with Sagars, it was Lola Van Wagenen, his first wife, who was the love of his life. According to sources close to the actor, Redford has been increasingly reflective about his first marriage in recent years, especially following the death of their son James. The shared grief has reportedly brought Redford and Van Wagenen closer together again, not romantically, but as two people united by decades of history, shared children, and now grandchildren. Robert and Lola have stayed close friends, one source revealed. She has been there for him through some of his darkest moments, including the loss of their son. There's a bond there that time and circumstances couldn't break. This renewed connection, coming at a time when Redford is contemplating his legacy both as an artist and as a man, has naturally led him to reassess his life's relationships. And in doing so, he's apparently arrived at a truth that has surprised many, that Van Wagenen, his partner during those formative years before fame, remains the most significant love of his life. The confession. In what sources describe as an intimate conversation with close friends that later found its way to the media, Redford reportedly opened up about his lifelong relationships in a way he rarely has before. When asked about the great loves of his life, Redford paused thoughtfully before responding. "You know," he began slowly, "when I think about love, real love, the kind that shapes you, I always come back to those early years. Lola and we grew up together, really. We were kids figuring out life together. There's something about that first love that stays with you." When pressed further, Redford made the admission that has since reverberated throughout Hollywood. "She was the love of my life. We didn't make it, and that's on me in a lot of ways. But when you ask about real love, that was it. Everything after has been different." Coming nearly 40 years after their divorce, this acknowledgement of Lola Van Wagenen as the love of his life stunned many who had followed Redford's career and romantic history. It suggested that despite his long and seemingly happy relationship with Sagars, a part of Redford's heart had remained with his first wife, the woman who had known him before fame, who had believed in him when no one else did, who had shared his greatest joys and most devastating sorrows. For fans who had watched Redford portray some of cinema's most romantic figures, there was something poignantly real about this admission. The man who had made millions swoon with his on-screen romances had in his own life never quite recovered from his first heartbreak. But this revelation raises an obvious question. What about his current wife, Sybil Sagars? Sources close to Redford insist that his confession doesn't diminish his feelings for Sagars, whom he deeply respects and cares for. Rather, it reflects the complex reality of the human heart, that we can love deeply more than once in a lifetime, but in different ways. Robert and Sybil have a profound connection based on shared values and mutual respect, one friend explained. It's a mature love that came to him later in life. But there's something about first love, especially when it's tangled up with youth, with becoming who you are, with having children together, that leaves an indelible mark. This nuanced perspective suggests a man who, after nearly 9 decades of life, has come to understand that love isn't a zero-sum game, that acknowledging the significance of his first marriage doesn't negate the value of his current one. The deeper truth. But beyond the Hollywood speculation and romantic possibilities lies a deeper truth that Redford's confession reveals, one about the nature of love, regret, and the roads not taken. When asked to elaborate on why he considers Van Wagenen the love of his life, despite his subsequent relationship with Sagars, Redford offered a perspective that resonates far beyond his personal story. "There's something pure about that first love," he explained. "Before fame, before money, before all the complications. We loved each other for ourselves, not for anything else. And maybe you only get that once." He continued, "I'm not diminishing what came after. I've loved deeply more than once, but there's a foundation that gets laid with that first person who really sees you, who knows you before you even fully know yourself. And when that foundation cracks, everything you build afterwards sits on something slightly less stable." This reflection offers a glimpse into why, despite his long and successful relationship with Zaggers, Redford still feels a special connection to his first wife. By his own admission, the authenticity of that first love, coming before fame and fortune complicated his life, created a benchmark that was difficult to match. It also explains why, as his career reaches its final chapters, Redford seems drawn to reconnect with his past in meaningful ways. There's a symmetry to this reflection that appeals to the storyteller in him, the possibility that his personal narrative might find its resolution in acknowledging the full circle of his life's relationships. Whether or not Redford and Van Wagenen have rekindled any romantic feelings, and sources close to both adamantly deny this, emphasizing that they remain simply good friends and co-grandparents, his public acknowledgement of her as the love of his life represents a kind of emotional honesty that has been rare in his public persona. It's a vulnerability that contradicts the stoic characters he often portrays, revealing the complex, feeling man behind the Hollywood icon. As one friend put it, Robert is finally being honest with himself about what has always mattered most to him, the authentic connections he's made throughout his life, whether with Lola, with his children, with Sibyl, or with the artists he's mentored through Sundance. At 88, there's no reason not to speak your truth. This truth, the enduring significance of his first great love, might explain why, despite his enormous success, Redford has often projected a certain melancholy, a sense of something missing despite having achieved so much. As we've traced Robert Redford's romantic journey from his young marriage to Lola Van Wagenen through his long partnership with Sibyl Saggers, a powerful truth emerges. Despite his worldwide fame, despite his wealth and success, Redford has experienced the same fundamental human struggles with love and connection that all of us face. His confession about Lola Van Wagenen being the love of his life isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a profound statement about the nature of first love and the roads not taken that haunt us all. What makes Redford's story so compelling is that it contradicts the fairy tale narratives his films often portray. In movies like The Way We Were or Out of Africa, love is passionate, all-consuming, and often tragic. But in Redford's real life, love proved more nuanced, more complicated, vulnerable to the pressures of fame, ambition, and human imperfection, yet also capable of evolving over decades into something like the deep friendship he now shares with Van Wagenen. His acknowledgement of Van Wagenen as his greatest love after all these years reveals something we rarely see from celebrities: genuine reflection and emotional honesty. Not a carefully crafted PR statement, but the raw admission of a man looking back on his life and recognizing what was most authentic. "We didn't make it, and that's on me in a lot of ways," he said, a statement that suggests he's had decades to reflect on what went wrong and his own role in the dissolution of that foundational relationship. The timing of this confession, coming as he approaches his 90s and after the shared grief of losing their son James, speaks to a man trying to make peace with the unfinished emotional business of his life. There's a poignancy to Redford at 88, still wrestling with the ghost of a love that ended almost 40 years ago, still trying to understand what it means for all that came after. What can we learn from Redford's complicated romantic history and his surprising confession? Perhaps it's that time doesn't necessarily heal all wounds. Sometimes it just gives us the perspective to understand them better. The young Redford who rose to fame in the 1960s and 1970s was consumed with ambition, with crafting an image, with seizing every opportunity that Hollywood offered him. The older Redford seems more concerned with authenticity, with honest connection, with coming to terms with the choices he's made. There's a universality to this evolution that transcends Redford's celebrity status. Many of us look back on our lives as we age and reassess our priorities, recognize paths not taken, and wonder about the ones who got away. The difference is that Redford has lived these very human experiences on a public stage, with each relationship dissected by the media and his personal pain magnified by fame. Yet despite the heartbreak and the public scrutiny, Redford has managed to maintain meaningful connections with both the women who have shared his life. His continued friendship with Van Wagenen, especially as they navigated the tragic loss of their son together, speaks to a man who values the depth of history over the bitterness of breakups. And his enduring partnership with Saggers demonstrates that second acts in life can be rich and fulfilling, even if they're different from what came before. In recent public appearances, Redford has appeared content, a man at peace with his legacy, both as an artist and as a human being. His brief return to acting in early 2025 with a cameo in Dark Winds surprised many, but friends say it reflects his current approach to life, doing what brings him joy, connecting with creative people who inspire him, and no longer feeling the need to prove anything to anyone. Whether or not Redford and Van Wagenen ever shared romantic feelings again after their divorce, and all evidence suggests they did not, his acknowledgement of her singular place in his heart represents a kind of closure. By naming what has perhaps always been true for him, he's freed himself from the weight of an unspoken regret, and in doing so, he's perhaps finally ready to embrace all chapters of his life with complete honesty. The triumphs and the failures, the loves found and the loves lost. And there you have it, the surprising truth behind Robert Redford's recent confession about the love of his life. From his early days with Lola Van Wagenen, through their shared tragedies and eventual divorce, to his enduring relationship with Sybil Zaggars, and his current period of reflection at 88, we've traced the romantic journey of one of Hollywood's most enduring stars. His story reminds us that even those who seem to have everything, fame, fortune, success, still grapple with the fundamental human experiences of love, loss, and regret. What did you think of Redford's revelation? Does it change how you view his past relationships or his iconic romantic roles on screen? Have you ever experienced the kind of regret he describes about a first love that couldn't be sustained? Remember to drop a comment below, sharing your thoughts and telling me where you're watching from to be entered in our giveaway for those limited edition Sundance Film Collection box sets. Your comments also help this channel reach more viewers interested in the real stories behind Hollywood's biggest stars. If you found this video fascinating, you'll definitely want to check out our upcoming deep dive into Hollywood's golden age marriages, the ones that lasted, and why, where we'll explore relationships like Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward's that stood the test of time in an industry known for its romantic volatility. It's the perfect companion piece to today's exploration of Redford's more complicated romantic history. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more revealing insights into the stars you thought you knew. Behind every Hollywood image lies a very human story of triumph and struggle, and we're here to bring those authentic narratives to light. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.